Today I wanted to chit chat about a little bit of what my training has been looking like over the last few weeks, and why I love it. So to start off, it's based off of one of my favorite strength coaches, Dan John. He and Pavel Tsatsouline came up with this book called Easy Strength, which I think is one of my favorite training books of all time. It's basically a textbook, but in that book they outline if strength training were easy, what would it look like, basically. They outline, or they summarize it down to 2 sets of 5 for some big compound movements. And so Dan John is a big proponent of the functional 6, if you will. So you have your push, your pull, your squat, your hinge, your carry, and your core. And so if you're basically breaking those 6 movements down, however you choose, you can do them basically 1 through 6, or you can do them 1, 2, 3, or 4, 5, 6, however you choose to organize it. But the base of the principle is that you're doing 2 sets of 5 about for each of these lifts. Now, because the volume is so low, you have to compensate with the weight. Obviously, if you're doing sets of 5, you want the load to be fairly substantial. So you can choose your implement, obviously, if you're using barbells or dumbbells or kettlebells, whatever, it doesn't matter. But what I've been using lately is I've been formatting it so I do my warm-up, and it's a fairly short warm-up because I usually get into the lift, and I might throw in a 3rd set, which is basically a warm-up set, and then I have my 2 actual training sets. And so I get into it fairly quickly, and the actual time of the lift only takes about 30 minutes, which is amazing. But basically how I've been organizing it is I will start with my core, my carry, and then I will do a hinge. And so how I've been doing that is I'll do a farmer carry with 2 kettlebells in my hand, and then I will go and do a core exercise, which has just been some weighted hanging knee raises, which has been fun, followed immediately by some hip extensions on a bench. Now, that's just I find it gets me into the groove a little bit quicker and easier, so I'm not like struggling to get into the swing of things. But after I finish those 3, I've basically compiled it into a tri-set. So I've got 1, 2, 3, and then I go back 1, 2, 3, finishing all the reps and all the sets there. Next, I go into a squat or a lunge pattern. They equal to the same thing. And then I do a push and then a pull. And by this time, I'm really warmed up. I've got the juices flowing, and I'm feeling like I'm in the workout, so I can really push those 3 movements, which is great. The other 3 are more prep or accessory for my program right now. And so lately I've been doing a floor press, I've been doing a Bulgarian split squat, or a rear foot elevated split squat, followed by some form of row. And lately I've been playing a bit around with seated rows, so they're really, really heavy. I've actually changed that variable for the rows because I wanted the row component to actually feel like I was doing something, and so I've basically increased the volume, or I've increased the number of reps that I'm doing for any sort of rowing, just to help with overall, it makes my body feel better. And so I've been doing that as a slight change. Now, with this type of programming, because you can get through the 2 sets of 5 fairly quickly, like I said, within a half hour with a warm-up, you can, if you've dedicated an hour's worth of training for yourself, you can actually have the rest of the half hour or 15 to 20 minutes of actual conditioning work, which has been a priority of mine lately because I want to get into better cycling shape for the summer. I want to get out on my mountain bike. And so I've been doing more interval training on the back end of my workouts, or more prolonged interval training. So instead of doing 30 seconds on and 30 seconds off, or some variation of that, it's been like 3 to 10 minutes with a bit of rest in between, and then a repeat. Obviously, I'm manipulating those variables as I go, but the principle is the same. I'm doing some level of interval training at the very end of my workout to get my legs feel like they've been pumped, and to feel like my lungs and my heart have been worked. The other major benefit to this style of training, and why I love it so much, is it doesn't produce a ton of demand on your body or your nervous system. So you don't feel like you don't feel super sore unless you like really push your lift, but you don't feel super sore the next day. So you can actually come back and do this 3 to 5 times in a week and feel like you're pretty fresh. It doesn't impact the rest of what I do on a daily basis. And so I'm able to do this quite frequently throughout the week. And even if I don't get in my conditioning, I can actually save that for every other day, or if I miss one day but I do it the rest of the 4, then that's peachy. It's great. It's not a hard training program, if you will, but what I've noticed already is my floor presses have gone up 10 pounds already. I'm starting to push 50s again, which feels good. For my rows, they've gone up substantially, even with a little extra volume, not surprisingly. But the big thing for me is that my body doesn't feel like it's destroyed every time I train, which if you've heard anything from my past stories or watched my 4-month challenge, you know that I struggled with training too hard and then feeling like it was taking too long to recover. So this type of training is a great building block from where I have been in the last few months to just improve strength, improve how my body feels, and not feel like I'm getting thrashed every time I walk into the gym. So that's been a huge benefit from this type of training, and why I love it so much. Now, if you're familiar with any type of strength training, you know that rest periods are important. And if you're doing around sets of 5, usually you want to allow enough time to actually recover so that those sets of 5 look crisp and they look tight. The thing that I haven't been timing my rest periods, which can be up for debate, but I haven't been timing my rest periods because I'm going from one exercise to a non-competing exercise to another non-competing exercise. So what I mean by that is, since we're training different movement patterns, we're not training specific muscle groups, so I'm not pre-fatiguing a lot of these movements. And so when you go from a push to a pull, for example, yeah, they're both upper body, but and they're both arms, and they're both integrating or working your shoulders in some way, but because they are opposed movement patterns, you don't necessarily have to worry about pre-fatiguing them so much, especially when the types of exercises that I've chosen aren't ridiculously straining on the body. If I was doing a really heavy barbell bench press and then immediately followed by a pull-up, for example, I would definitely have to take some time to recover between each of those, because they're fairly strenuous on both the shoulder, but also just the entire body. Because I'm doing floor presses and then a cable row, they're not super fatiguing, and so I'm able to bounce from one to the next fairly simply and fairly quickly. So I've been adopting the rest as needed policy, and that's been super effective. I'll grab some water if I need to. If I feel something a little stiff, I'll go and stretch it out or move it a little bit more before I go into my next round or my next set of exercises. So if that sounds like something that you want to try, by all means, give it a shot. It's really fun. I've noticed, or I've done this type of program in the past, and what I noticed was without feeling like I was trying super hard, I was actually able to produce some really great results in pushing my lift numbers. And with slight variations. It wasn't super difficult to actually move my floor press up, or my bench press, or the weight that I was holding when I was doing some form of lunge or a squat. It's really, really good for building strength and building up from any point. If you're starting at ground zero, it's a great starting point because it's not super fatiguing, it's not super taxing on your body, you don't get super sore from it, and you're able to build up fairly quickly. Within 3 or 4 weeks, oftentimes I've noticed a difference in whatever lift that I chose, and it's gone up. It's been really, really effective for that. So give it a shot. Let me know how it goes. I'm always curious how these things work out for you guys. Or if you need help or have questions on it, by all means, let me know. That's all I wanted to talk about with you guys. We'll leave it at that. So I hope you have a great week coming up, and we'll catch you guys next time.